There are weeks when the road feels swallowed by fog, where yesterday's clarity dissolves into today's question marks, where even simple steps feel uncertain, unsafe, unseen. And maybe this is one of those weeks for you, where what used to make sense no longer does, where the direction you thought God was leading has gone quiet, and the next step, just one, feels heavier than it should. If so, breathe here with me, because I want to tell you something that your soul already knows, but your heart might have forgotten. You don't need to see the whole path to keep walking. Even in this fog, God is present. Even in the confusion, you're not disqualified from progress. Even here, where the clarity ends, His hand does not. We think faith is a light that shows the whole road. But sometimes, faith is just the courage to lift your foot and trust there will be ground beneath it. You're not weak for needing reassurance. You're human. And heaven knows how to meet humans where they are, not where they pretend to be. So if this week feels uncertain, if your plans unravel as fast as you make them, if you can't hear the voice of God the way you used to, stay. This message isn't for the confident. It's for the quiet struggler who still wants to believe. You were never expected to map the entire future, just to take the next faithful step. And there is a step. You're not lost. You're led. And even this is still sacred ground. You didn't ask to be here, on the edge of understanding, the place where even your best prayers feel unanswered, and the plans you made keep slipping through your fingers like dry sand. It's disorienting, isn't it? To have come this far and still not know where here island. To have followed the signs, the sermons, the steps, and still feel like the trail ends without warning. Maybe you've tried to keep moving, to push past the confusion, to pretend the fog doesn't bother you. But the truth is, you're tired. Not just physically, but soul tired. And yet, you're still listening, still hoping that maybe, somehow, this moment isn't wasted, that maybe the silence itself carries a message. If you're standing at the edge of your map, this message was written for fracked you, not for the ones with clear schedules and confident plans, but for the wanderer, the weary, the one holding a broken compass and still choosing to hope. Hear this. God does not abandon you at the border of clarity. He draws closer. Not with explanations, but with presence. Not with answers, but with assurance. The wind may not tell you where to go next, but it can remind you are still breathing, you are still held, and heaven hasn't stopped watching the horizon with you. If that's a message your heart needs more of, you're not alone here. At Called, this space exists for sacred pauses like this, for moments when the road ends and grace begins. Subscribe and stay close, so when the next whisper of peace comes, it finds you ready to receive it. Anxiety doesn't mean you've failed. It doesn't mean you're broken or behind or spiritually disconnected. It means you're human, and something inside you is trying to speak. But we've learned to silence that voice, haven't we? To press it down with busyness, to cover it with performance, to drown it in distractions that promise peace but never quite deliver. What if anxiety isn't incompetence? What if it's a signal, a divine pulse within, saying, "You're misaligned. Let's come back." Sometimes, God speaks not through clarity, but through discomfort. Not through light, but through the shadows that make us slow down and cry, see. You may be interpreting your unrest as failure, when it's actually the start of a holy reorientation. Like a pressure change before a coming storm, your soul is registering a shift, and heaven is asking you to pay attention. It's not punishment, it's preparation. Not rejection, but redirection. Breathe again. Let that tension you've been carrying drop just a little. It's safe to listen. God is not angry with your overwhelmed heart. He's present in it. Anxiety doesn't need to be battled. It needs to be blessed. Not celebrated, but acknowledged, as a symptom of a soul being nudged gently back toward alignment. This isn't the end of your clarity. It's the beginning of a deeper kind. One rooted not in control, but in trust. And if you stay with me, we'll follow that signal together until peace becomes your pulse again. We often see the unknown as a void, a threat, a space to be filled quickly lest fear seep in. But to God, the unknown is a canvas, not an emergency but an opportunity. And He's been painting with mystery since the beginning of time. He created light without asking the darkness to leave first. He formed beauty from formlessness. And to this day, He chooses the undefined places to do His most defining work. We want blueprints. He offers brushstrokes. We want guarantees. He offers grace. There's nothing careless about this moment of uncertainty in your life. No wasted motion, no accidental detour. God doesn't work in chaos, but He does work in mystery. Maybe the reason the next chapter feels blank is because the ink He's using hasn't dried yet. Or maybe He's still mixing the colors, preparing to unveil something more layered, more textured than your current understanding can grasp. You are not behind schedule. You're standing in a sacred space, a divine studio where heaven creates slowly, deliberately, where brush meets canvas not in haste, but with eternal precision. Sometimes, the most faithful thing you can do is stop trying to define what hasn't been revealed, and simply trust the artist. Let him choose the palette. Let him decide the timing. Let him finish the section that still looks incomplete to you. You don't need to rush in with your own strokes, just to make the silence more bearable. Let the quiet breathe. Let the unknown remain spacious for now. The same God who painted galaxies with a whisper is painting your path with purpose, even if you don't yet recognize the picture. So, when the blank spaces stretch long, when the future won't fit inside your understanding, remember, this is not emptiness, it's potential. And the one who started the masterpiece, He will not leave the canvas unfinished. It's tempting to think you have to figure it all out, to sit at the edge of this week with a plan in one hand and pressure in the other, to believe that if you don't hold it all together, it'll fall apart. But what if you were never meant to lead this week alone? What if the weight you're carrying isn't yours to manage entirely? We live in a world that applauds independence. It teaches us to hustle, to produce, to control. But heaven doesn't operate by that currency. God isn't measuring your worth by how self-sufficient you are. In fact, your deepest strength might be in your willingness to yield. To say, God, I don't know, but I trust you do. There's a kind of peace that enters when you stop being the strategist of your own survival. When you stop trying to read the map and start holding the hand of the one who wrote it. You weren't created to navigate rough waters alone. Not emotionally, not spiritually, not this week, and not any other. God's presence isn't a vague comfort, it's a real companion. A guide in the fog, a steady voice at the crossroads. And yes, there, Frest, will be choices you must make. But you don't make them as an orphan. You make them as one who is seen, known, accompanied. Let go of the narrative that says you must be strong to be worthy. That clarity equals control. That needing direction means you're failing. It doesn't. It means you're human, and God delights in guiding the human heart. So what if this week is not a test of your leadership, but an invitation into holy partnership? What if the strength you need isn't found in more effort, but in deeper surrender? Let God walk ahead for once. Let Him part the waters. Let Him speak before you strategize. And when He pauses, pause with Him. This week may be unclear, but the shepherd is not confused, and His hand is already reaching for yours. You may feel like something has interrupted your plans, like the road you were so sure about suddenly cracked beneath your feet, and now you're standing in the unknown, holding shattered expectations. It's easy to call this season a detour, to believe that what's happening is a delay, a mistake, or some cosmic misalignment. But what if this isn't a detour at all? What if it's a divine interruption on purpose, with precision by design? There are moments when God steps in, not to derail us, but to redirect us. Not because we were off course, but because He was ready to reveal something we hadn't yet seen. Interruptions are not always obstacles. Sometimes they are sacred signposts. Moments when heaven says, I'm doing something different now. Let go of your pace and align with mine. But that letting go is hard, because we've been trained to chase outcomes, to finish what we start, to measure movement by progress, not presence. Yet here's the truth. God isn't late, He's precise. And His interruptions carry holy weight. They pause us to protect us. They hold us back to prepare us. Think of a tightrope walker. The rope must be perfectly tensioned, not too loose, not too tight before they can step. And sometimes, heaven pulls the line taut before asking you to walk it. That tension you feel, it's not failure, it's preparation. This season that feels like not yet may actually be just in time, but not for the outcome you expected, for the soul shift you didn't know you needed. You may have wanted clarity, but God is offering something better, alignment. And alignment often begins with interruption. So instead of rushing to get back on track, pause, ask a deeper question. What is heaven adjusting in me right now? This moment might not be a mistake. It might be a mercy, a sacred stop in the story, not to halt progress, but to deepen purpose. You're not off course. You're being re-centered. And the new direction, it won't just change your week, it may transform your life. There are questions that feel safe, like what's next, or when will it get better? But then there are questions that shake the ground beneath us, questions that peel back the surface, that invite the spirit to search the deeper places. What is God doing in me? It's not a question about circumstances. It's not about timing or breakthrough or resolution. It's about transformation. This question is sacred and dangerous because it demands honesty. It bypasses performance and lands straight in the core of your being. It says, God, I'm not just watching, I'm willing. Willing to be refined, willing to be reshaped, willing to see the hidden places where fear still lingers, and let Him touch them. Transformation rarely begins on the surface. It starts in places no one else can see, like roots growing deeper underground before a single leaf appears. And that's what makes it holy. God is more interested in your internal shift than your external success. He is not in a rush to fix your life. He's forming your soul. Sometimes the delay you're experiencing is not about the outside at all. It's about the inside, about a divine rearrangement of how you carry trust, peace, surrender. What if the discomfort is not punishment, but pruning? What if He's dimming the lights outside, so you're forced to notice what's flickering within? Not because He's hiding, but because He's highlighting. Not to leave you in the dark, but to show you where light is already breaking through. Let this question guide your next pause. What is God doing in me right now beneath the outcomes, beyond the plans? And am I willing to let it unfold even if no one else sees it yet? This is where quiet transformation begins. Not in the noise, but in the surrender. Not in the answer, but in the question. And that question, it may be the very door that opens peace. There's a cruel whisper that often sneaks in during weeks like this. You're behind. Behind schedule. Behind others. Behind where you thought you'd be by now. But what if that whisper is not truth, but a distortion? What if the delay you feel isn't a penalty, but a pause filled with purpose? Heaven doesn't operate on human calendars. And God isn't watching your life like a ticking clock. He's shaping it like a sculptor with clay. Patient, precise, 0, 3, and completely unbothered by how long it takes. Realignment, often BLI, feels like delay because it interrupts our forward motion. But it's not a denial of movement. It's a correction of direction. Imagine driving a winding road with no visibility. You might slow down, miss a turn, recalculate, not because you failed, but because safety required stillness. God does this with our lives, not to punish, but to protect, not to embarrass, but to align. His mercy will delay what your ambition tries to rush, because the path He's preparing is too sacred to be navigated blindly. And so, you're not behind. You're being recalibrated, refined, rooted. Sometimes, He'll gently press pause, just to adjust your internal compass, so that when you do move forward, you move in peace, not pressure. The lost time you fear, He can redeem it in a moment. The detour you resent, He can use it as foundation. The stillness that frustrates you, it may be the very place you meet Him most clearly. You're not falling behind in life. You're falling back into alignment with heaven. That's not a setback. That's sacred motion. Realignment is movement. It's just happening beneath the surface first. So today, release the need to rush. Let go of the pressure to catch up, and instead say, God, if you're realigning me, I trust your pace. And trust this, when it's time to move again, you'll move with grace, clarity, and no regret. The pressure to be clear is not from God. We crave clarity. We chase it like it's the finish line, as if only when we understand can we begin to breathe again. But here's a truth few speak aloud. The pressure to be clear is not from God. We've mistaken clarity for obedience. We've linked certainty with holiness. And somewhere along the way, we began to believe that unless the path is fully visible, we must be doing something wrong. But Scripture is full of people walking without maps. Abraham didn't know the destination, just the direction. Mary didn't know how only to. Paul didn't see the full picture, he followed the next whisper. God never demanded certainty, he invited trust. There's a difference between confusion and surrender. Confusion says, I must fix this. Surrender says, God will lead me. The enemy wants to make you believe that if you're uncertain, you're unfaithful. But heaven sees it differently. God welcomes your not knowing because it opens space for prayer, His knowing. You don't have to pretend to be sure. You don't have to fake strength. You don't need to manufacture direction just to silence the fear. Take off the pressure. You were never asked to write the map, only to walk it. And some of the most sacred journeys begin where clarity ends. Maybe God is like intentionally keeping some things hidden, not to torment you, but to teach you how to trust the steps without seeing the stairs. Sometimes the fog is His mercy, a way of slowing you down, of realigning your pace with heaven's rhythm, of teaching you to walk by presence, not prediction. Let this bring peace to your weary soul. You don't need to have it all figured out. You don't need the perfect plan. You only need to stay close. Clarity may come later, but His nearness is available now. And that more than understanding is what keeps your feet moving. You've been waiting for the right moment, the confirmation, the green light, that holy sign in the sky that tells you it's time to begin. But what if the signal isn't out there? What if it's already within you? You already have what you need to start, not because you feel ready, but because God equips from the inside out. Too often, we disqualify ourselves with questions. Do I know enough? Have I healed enough? What if I mess it up? But heaven doesn't wait for perfection to move. It moves through availability. Think of a lantern. It doesn't light up the whole path, just enough for the next few steps. But that's enough. That's always enough. You have the peace of Christ, even if it feels faint. You have memory of times He showed up before. You have breath, which means there's still purpose. You have Scripture alive and eternal. You have presence, the Spirit who speaks without shouting. Don't overlook the ordinary. Sometimes the tools heaven gives look like bread and oil, simple, quiet, enough. Not dramatic, but deeply divine. You don't need the whole staircase. You just need the first step. And if it feels small, trust this. Small steps still move mountains over time. Start the prayer, write the note, make the call, forgive the moment, rest instead of rushing. Whatever that start is, don't wait until you feel worthy. God is not asking for polish. He's asking for permission. And maybe, just maybe, this quiet space is exactly where He wants to meet you, not with answers, but with movement. You've been equipped all along, not with certainty, but with courage, not with a map, but with a guide. So begin, not because everything is clear, but because you've already been called. It's easy to label this week, to stamp it as confusing, unproductive, or wasted, to let the fog of uncertainty cast judgment on the whole landscape. But this week is not a sentence, it's a seed. And seeds don't shout. They don't bloom on command. They disappear, first buried in darkness, watered by trust. What feels small right now may be sacred. What looks unfinished may be right on time. Heaven has always favored the hidden. It's where growth begins. You're not stuck. You're planted. And planted things don't always look impressive, but their roots are getting stronger. This is a divine beginning, not a verdict on your worth. God isn't done just because the path feels slow. He's present, cultivating, quietly, carefully. Let go of needing to see full fruit right now. Even Jesus taught that the kingdom comes like a seed, unseen, unfolding, unstoppable. Some breakthroughs arrive as harvest, others come as stillness. Both are holy. So instead of measuring your life by outcomes, measure by obedience, by intimacy, by the still, steady yes in your spirit. And know this, what's happening in you this week matters. Even if no one sees it, even if you can't fully name it yet, heaven is not waiting for a big reveal to validate your process. It already sees the full picture and still calls you on time, still calls this moment good, still calls your name in the quiet. You don't have to prove that this week was useful. You just have to be present for what it's planting. And one day, not far from now, you'll look back and see it. This was the week something holy took root. Let's end here, not with answers, but with awareness. Not with a plan, but with presence. The fog may not lift today. The map may not appear tomorrow. And still, you are not alone on this road. There is a God who walks with you, who doesn't need you to have all the answers, because He is the answer. So wherever you are right now, in a kitchen, in a car, in your room with tears still drying, breathe, just breathe. Let this be your prayer. God, I don't see the full path, but I trust you hold it. I've been anxious, distracted, afraid of missing something, but you've never lost sight of me. Thank you for meeting me in the middle of the unclear, for showing up in the tension, not just the triumph, for reminding me that mystery isn't punishment. It's the soil where trust takes root. Today, I release the pressure to know. I release the burden to perform, impress, or prove anything. I don't need to be the map maker. I just want to follow your voice. Speak in the silence, Lord, or don't, and let your stillness be enough. Guide my next step, and when I pause, let it be with you. Even now, I trust you a little more than I did before. Amen. You don't need to see the whole path to keep walking. That was true when we began, and it's even truer now. Something in you shifted, maybe not loudly, maybe not visibly, but there's a quiet alignment taking place, a holy recalibration. Let it continue, let it deepen, and know that you don't have to do it alone. Here at Calm, called, we create space for this kind of walk, for the foggy days, the sacred pauses, the whispered realignments. If you felt something settle in you today, stay close. Subscribe and come back whenever the world feels too loud and your spirit needs to be still again. There will be a whisper waiting, and this time you'll know how to listen.